Does nature have its own language? I believe it does. And I believe much can be learned by studying the very small details in the forest. For example, this little fellow right here, who seems very much to be drawn right into the wood. Certainly he does. Hand-carved by nature. There you see the face, and now just a piece of bark that you did not pay enough attention to. Or perhaps there is this. Doesn't that look like some sort of creature? What exactly? A wild boar? Perhaps the snout. Certainly it's got the mouth and the eyes. Also, there are elements that I believe describe everything we need to know about this tree, regardless of who you might be. Whether you be a bug, a spore, or just an explorer like myself. Just curious about all the intricacies in the wood. Images in the wood. How many times have you stopped at a tree and took a close look? Well, let's do so right now. I'm in the tree, in the forest, and you're in the comfort of your living room. What does a tree have to say to us? Well, just look at the details. All on the bark of a tree. Seems to have an indication. Looks like he's trying to draw a pig snout. Perhaps it's telling a pig to be warm here. Or perhaps it's not a pig at all. Perhaps it's a detailed map to the very inner workings of the forest itself. Just look at those designs. They almost look like a language. And so, part of our study was, perhaps, are there clues in nature? Perhaps they are. And we're going to explore and see how many we can find today. On the Living Museum, where life is all around you. And tonight we take a peek. The Living Museum. What sort of jewels does it have for us tonight? What have we here? That certainly looks like someone carrying water on her head, does it not? Okay. Perhaps it's just the accompanying quiet of the crickets. Who knows what's there? There's so much to see in the forest. And today, right now, we're just in an ordinary forest. It's just a forest, just like one near you. Surely you can get within a walking distance of some trees If you happen to be, take a look the next time you're there. But tonight we're going to explore this particular tree, perhaps one nearby. What brought my attention to this tree was the algae or the mold or the coloration, as this tree has more patterns, more interesting to look at. And I could look at the other tree as well, but this one got my attention because of its icy, lacy trim and what sort of paintings it might be having, what sort of story it might be trying to tell. It's a fractal world, and fractal geometry has always fascinated myself. And perhaps stick around and we can learn something about the forest and about life itself. And before I forget, I want all of you to do one thing. I want you to understand something called the Fibonacci curve. I want you to understand it, Google it, whatever it takes. I don't want to have to explain it to you, but that is pertinent to our studies here. When we see the Fibonacci patterns, but it's not just that. Just look at what's going on here on the ordinary tree. Just look. Don't you see the number 5? There's a 0. All sorts of things that we see all about, just in a simple little tree. And tonight we will study this tree and find out if it can tell us something about the forest and something about life itself. Don't go away. This is a special production of Living Museum, and it runs in odd times as we're not able to actually get these live things just when you might want them. So we stop it when we have to. We can't take expensive gear out here all the time. Sometimes we just do what you could do with your own smartphone and take pictures close up of the trees and look for the art that's already there and share it with your friends. And they'll think you're very smart, that's for sure, because the beauty is absolutely fantastic. Just look at all the art in this one simple little tree. We're going to pause this. This is the Living Museum. Outdoor excursion number 9. Welcome back to the Living Museum. Today we're looking at art right in front of us in nature, right where you may walk, like in this park. Something as mundane as a place where there are some trees. It could be the Black Forest, or it could be just a place you can get to. If there's a tree, we stop and take a look. Observe the beautiful patterns in this particular square. And now, as you really start to pay attention, look at all the art within this bark, the story, perhaps, that it's trying to tell. Just look. Why, that's an absolutely lovely painting. What does it look like? It looks like an impressionist painting. And so you and painters could go out there, put your phone on, say, 3.5 magnification. Any kind of small recording device with a camera would do. It doesn't have to be. And take a look. You'll see exactly what I'm seeing. You won't have to watch me do it anymore. Take a look right there. Do you not see a figure? It looks like a well-dressed male and a female in some sort of ceremonial gown, perhaps. Or perhaps in overalls and a top hat, straw hat, or perhaps it's Huck Finn. And you can see The tree tells the story of the life that has occurred around it, perhaps. Whatever the reason, we have noticed the art when one single tree can be amazing. Now here we have something very interesting. We have creatures who are working and living right on this tree. We don't mean to bother you. We would like to film here, if that would be okay. What exactly? Okay, thank you. Yes, a very lovely spot you've got here. And certainly say the decor is top notch. But just look at this place. Absolutely beautiful. It was here, on this very spot, the very spot where the professor began his laboratory, right here in the wood. And what a laboratory it was. What sort of things did he discover? What sort of things did he imagine? What sort of things was the quirky professor up to just at this moment? I had to come as the Raven to check on him, as we were not sure. Well, just to check on him. He's a bit eccentric, and he has good intentions, certainly, but he does have some very interesting science, and sometimes we have to come down and just have a little look. And it seems the professor is not here, and I shall take the form as the Raven and keep my eye on this very spot. What a place he has chosen. An absolutely lovely wood. And the Raven tours about. The Emerald Cavern was always a point of interest, but the Raven would leave that one to the bats or the mice as he scaled the terrain above the professor's lair, where he had built quite the laboratory, right in the midst of this wondrous tree. So the professor's doings will have to be monitored. But for now, we will see what we can do in the form of persuasion. As that is always the proffered choice, wouldn't you say? I perhaps would have to employ my friends, the leprechauns, who are often looking for the shiny emeralds. And when you see them snatched behind the moss, you can bet that there's a leprechaun handy. Certainly, that is the lot. We shall leave that for the crow. A very lovely tree, no doubt. A very lovely forest. And a very lovely, well constructed, I must say myself, a very dazzling laboratory. perhaps I would have to employ smaller forces to assist, to see what they would know. Whatever wild creature would lurk about could possibly help me in some way. We shall have to study very carefully indeed, this very wood. But certainly there is a leprechaun nearby. As you can see, the emerald behind the moss. On the wonderful tree in the forest, the one that we shall study ever more intensely as we proceed. But it is getting dark and I may have to go back. And perhaps I could come in the wee of the night to take a better look, to see what is going on in the land of the blue orb and the wood creatures, all within and without. Welcome back to the Living Museum. Today we're looking at art right in front of us in nature, right where you may walk, like in this park. Something as mundane as a place where there are some trees. It could be the Black Forest, or it could be just a place you can get to. If there's a tree, we stop and take a look. Observe the beautiful patterns in this particular square. And now, as you really start to pay attention, look at all the art within this bark, the story, perhaps, that it's trying to tell. Just look. Why, that's an absolutely lovely painting. What does it look like? It looks like an impressionist painting. And so you and painters could go out there, put your phone on, say, 3.5 magnification. You need kind of small recording device with a camera would do. It doesn't have to be. And take a look. You'll see exactly what I'm seeing. You won't have to watch me do it anymore. Take a look right there. Do you not see a figure? It looks like a well-dressed male and a female in some sort of ceremonial gown, perhaps. Or perhaps in overalls and a top hat, straw hat, or perhaps it's Huck Finn. And you can see the tree tells the story of the life that has occurred around it, perhaps. Whatever the reason, we have noticed the art when one single tree can be amazing. Now here